I'll just make one comment.
Okay.
I do think the 15 is too low. 20 is more reasonable.
Yeah.
I hope you all will.
Anybody else? Will you proceed with the meeting?
Yeah, we will close the public hearing and proceed with the regular meeting.
No, do we still take comments from the crowd though? Okay, it's a little different.
If you'll stand, please. And I will lead in prayer. Father, Lord, thank you for today. Thank you for the many blessings, God, that you have given us. Thank you, Lord, that we have enough to have a meeting here and be with us as we make the decisions that's the best for the town and the town's people and their tax money. Now we ask that you'll be with us for the remainder of the meeting, and all these things we ask in our precious name of Jesus, our Savior and your Son. Amen.
Amen.
Donnie, would you please lead us in the Lord? Pledge.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Alderman Nikki Fletcher. Alderman John Gibson. Here. Alderman Jim Gill. Here. Alderman Stephen McLean.
Keys, have some more authority.
Alderman Darby Patrick.
Here.
Vice Mayor Teresa Moss.
Here.
Mayor Pat Fiddle.
Here.
We have a four.
I want to welcome all of you all tonight, for coming out tonight, and before we get started, I always give our employee of the month, and this month, if Charles Clark would come up here. Charles, I think, is the baby of the whole town. And Charles, you want to tell exactly what you do?
I'm the brush truck operator.
He's the brush truck operator, and he's right on the money. And Charles, here is your honorable, I've not signed it, so I'll give you a minute after I sign it. And this is Charles Clark, and he does a wonderful job with our brush trucks. And
Busy man, busy man.
Thank you, Charles.
You're welcome.
Appreciate you always doing a good job for me at the house.
And you all did a wonderful job last week when we had so much snow.
Yes.
We were right out there. We have the best people. We couldn't ask for better people than what we've got working all over our town now. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Approving the correction of the minutes of the Board of Mayor and Alderman meeting dated the 16th.
We got a roll call also.
Oh,
Oh, you did it?
Yeah.
Okay, hang on, sorry. I'm lost.
I thought you'd already done it.
Yeah, you did.
All right.
I'm losing my mind.
I thought I lost mine, but I have anyway. But anyway, the approval and the correction of the minutes of the Board of Mayor and Alderman meeting dated December the 16th, 2021, and the monthly financial report. Do we have any discussion?
Yeah, I've got one correction on the minutes under section A, for the motion and second. That was on the second reading, not first. Okay. But other than that, I'll make a motion to approve for that amendment.
And I second.
All in favor?
Okay.
There was one thing I noticed, if I'm not mistaken, here on the, says adjournment was at 6:23.
I'm sorry, that should be 7:23. I will revise that as well. Thank you, Vice Mayor.
Thank you, thank you, John. Okay, now, we'll take the visitor's comment.
You go through the financial report first.
I've rolled them into the same.
Okay, ready, we need to proceed then. Thank you. All visitors wishing to address the board shall stand and state your name and shall be limited to a 3-minute presentation. The board may not participate in any discussion and will not vote on the subject you present. Absence of an emergency and the earliest time for the board to might discuss this and vote on your matter will be the next board meeting. Now, do I have any comments?
Yes, I'm Alan Cloyd, I live at 176 Bella Crest Drive, and I just want to give a big R+ to Jason Sawyer and his crew for the road work they done during the big 2 snows and cold weather. For what we got and everything, they done an excellent job. They stayed right on it. The streets was cleaner than Church Hill and Kingsport. So Jason, y'all done a good job. And I want to bring up the safety on Hammond Avenue. As you know, me and my daughter may be aware, me and my daughter was hit head on back November 30th, hit and run on November 30th on Hammond Avenue. This road is getting way over traveled, and its speed limit's 30, and I know I've seen people sitting doing 56, 60 miles an hour on Hammond Avenue. They come in over on you, and we really do need some like the strips in the middle, like around the curves and stuff, like they got at the Memorial Boulevard. Every day I leave that place, somebody's on my side of the road and going way too fast. These big trucks and stuff is on my side of the road. Hammond Avenue is too narrow to be doing 60 miles an hour. It's too small of a road. And here lately, I don't mean no disrespect or anything, we really need some patrol officers patrolling it. I don't see like what we used to. And we really know, instead of just driving around, we need somebody sitting somewhere, and I hate to say tickets, but an officer sitting somewhere, people slow down. You know, it's just crazy. Every day I leave that place 3 times a day or something, there's somebody on my side of the road. And of course, we just got to doing $50,000 improvements to it. You know, we got double lines and reflectors and stuff like that. But around the curves and stuff like that, we need them rumble strips in the middle, bad. But thank y'all very much.
Thank you, Alan. Anybody else? Yes, sir. State your name, please.
Oh, Sadie Beverly. Honorable Stillwell, Honorable Alderman, Honorable Mr. Peavy, Honorable Mr. Hillstrap. I know 2021 emphasis was on infrastructure. Done millions in infrastructure. And not so much for people directly. I'm hoping in 2022, I know you're not even thinking about it. Why not a stimulus check if the town is in the black? And supposedly I thought one time it was like $4 million gross. Of course, that's not that. We're taking care of the employees, sewer, fire trucks, dogs and pets. Why not give some money back? And anybody want to become mayor of Hawkins County, they could do it, because you would be the first town in the state of Tennessee to do it. And I encourage you to think about stimulus. There is $5. You'd be mayor, $5. But with 152,000, it could have been over $100 per person. With the small city that we have. Also, I think that I don't like to say senior citizens, older Americans, that macho crowd, when there's, I bet we have a little bit more money, we should go to these cats. You give them 152,000, they'd make $1 million out of it and give you 2 brand new fire trucks. They tough. They're the older Americans and they're the best. So I know Honorable Gibson, they kind of like you, the spokesman on majority events and eyes. So I'm hoping that you say, hey, how about a stimulus check? No one's ever thought about it. Let's do it. Why not? We're in the way. Thank you for your time. And thank you, Mr. Peavy. I don't know if anyone's directly said it. Appreciate the $152,000, sir.
You're welcome.
You're the man. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anybody else? Well, we'll proceed on then. We'll start with the old business. Discuss and consideration ordinance 21-505, an ordinance of the town on the Mount Carmel, amending the fiscal year of 21-22, general drug and sewer fund passed on by ordinance number 21-502.
This ordinance includes what we discussed with the contribution to Judge Ross's drug court, with the fire truck, the equipment that Jason had requested, and then just other budget items cleaning up.
Correct.
Okay.
Do we have anybody else?
Did we decide how much we're giving them?
And we amended the budget to make it a $15,000 donation out of the drug funds that were received from the Indian pharmaceutical. And Judge Ross wasn't unfortunately able to be here tonight to speak on that, but he did let me know some of the impact that would have as far as people in that program, and talk about the improvements that could make as far as for continuing to provide or providing residential assistance for some in that program, the treatment program. And this again was for out of the money from the opioid settlement, which I think it's a good thing that we use that money to put back into something that's established to help fight that epidemic. And I'll make a motion as written.
Okay. Do I hear a second? All in favor?
Nope.
Good.
Somebody, that's the ordinance we gotta
Okay,
call.
order call.
Alderman Gibson,
Yes.
Alderman Gill,
Yeah.
Alderman Patrick,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Monk,
Yes.
Mayor Stillwell.
Yes.
Ordinance passes on second reading.
Okay, we'll move on. The discussion of discussion and consideration ordinance 21-506, the ordinance of the town of Mount Carmel, Tennessee, lowering the speed limit on Main Street in the area in front of City Hall out here. And it does need lowering, because it's dangerous. I've had complaints about, people backing out from the post office or backing out coming into the City Hall. So it does need a little bit, more protection for our employees to walk across the street. They park over here across the street and they see us down that area up there. So, that is a good, thing to do. So let's have discussion.
I have a question on that.
Okay,
County spots up in front of the town hall yesterday. I think there's 16 or 18 parking spots. If you go across the street, there's probably about 10 over there. So why can't we take anybody that's parks over here, works over here, they park across the street?
they do.
Not all of them.
Except for me.
And,
I think that's what we're getting at.
and the police car.
What you getting, man?
But anyway, since you interrupted, I'll go ahead and finish.
Sorry.
That's okay. So anyway, if you got all that space, there's nobody sitting there, you should not have any problem backing up. And I think the speed limit, I should be, on the Garrett White side, it should be around 20 or 25.
I think 25 would be ideal. I'll try to go down the hill. 25 is about the best speed, I think.
Why?
Even if you outrun a car at 15 miles an hour, on foot.
I have a question. Right now, the little sign that has a little pedestrian on it, it's after you start down the hill. To me, wherever we're gonna start the speed limit, the pedestrian warning ought to be there, not farther past. And in regards to the 20-mile speed limit, if that's what we choose, where does that start effectively? What
Top of
location?
the hill.
I'm pardon?
I'm sorry, the top of the hill.
Okay, I kinda thought maybe collision, to me, it would be kind of a warning with the, for the, volunteer collisions, because you're gonna know then that you're gonna have to slow down instead of when you top the hill and have to apply your brakes. I think it,
Yeah, and that's where we had looked at posting the signage, if this passes. That's approximately where, 55, 550 feet, takes you pretty much to the crest of the hill. Right where volunteer collision ends.
There's a stop right here for traffic light.
and then
But the problem is when they get to here, if the traffic light is starting to turn yellow, they're gonna whiz by faster to get get through that area faster, so.
And on the other side of the intersection, what type of notice will people have then that they can't proceed through the red light at 30? That they need to be doing 20 instead of 30?
Well, we will place a speed limit sign, just to the other side of the intersection.
Okay, where they'll know before they come through the, okay.
Okay, do I have anything else?
I just think it needs to be 20 or 25.
It said,
Well, I agree with 20.
the new one said at 20, the revision, it was bumped up 5 miles in between readings, so, based on the last meeting.
If 25 is the will of the board, then I would ask for a motion saying that we adopt this with, the revision of 25.
I'll make that motion go 25.
I'll second that.
Yes.
Okay, roll call.
Alderman Gibson,
Yes.
Alderman Gill,
Yes.
Alderman Patrick,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Teresa Monk,
Yes.
and Mayor Pat Stewart.
Yes. So it'll be 25 then.
So now they'll do 35. Yeah.
No, it'll be still 50.
Yeah.
I'll jump out from you next time you come down the road.
Okay.
I do the speed
All right.
limit.
We will start new business, and I had new business tonight, and I apologize to Chris, Sexton, that I didn't get this put on, the, agenda in time for us to vote on it. And so we'll have, what you can do is still come to the meetings for the commission, planning commission, and, the only thing is that you just can't vote until next month. And I apologize for not getting this in time. I thought we could just come right in and do it, but
Can we, anybody make a motion to suspend the rules to allow that to go through?
Actually, the board doesn't have to approve.
Okay.
The planning commission is one that, it's just the mayor's appointment.
I then just come to the next meeting and you'll see Mr. TV back there,
Mr. Petitioner.
petition back there. So he's sitting here, but if you'll
Should
just
be.
get with him, he'll know, when the next meeting is, okay? Cause I think I heard somebody say it might have been called off for this month, so.
February meeting's been canceled, so it'll be in March.
All right, thank you, then that's it. Okay, we'll go to the new business now. Discussion and consideration resolution 22-605, resolution supporting the adoption of Hawkins County multi-jurisdiction hazard mitigation plan.
I mean, I couldn't have done that right there, stated.
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we accept that. Well, actually, before we do that, I'll make a motion we open the floor for discussion on that.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, but I don't know what it is.
Move second to open the floor.
It's on page 11 of your paper. Just come back and count the pages.
Do we need a second to open the floor for discussion? Yes.
I see.
Chief, can you answer some questions about that, what this does and what this, while we're adopting this?
So everybody should have got it in their email. Allison. Everybody should have got a copy of this in their email as part of your agenda packet. I have my copy with me if you wanna look at it. Once I get done talking, I can hand you a copy of it. Allison, stop. So what this does is this is a Fema document, which is Federal Emergency Management Agency, that was prepared by FEMA, the state organization. We met on this thing back in, I don't know my dates on here when I was at the meeting. It actually started back in January of last year. That was our first meeting on it. And then we've had meetings all throughout the year. Basically what this thing does is it took every potential natural disaster that could have taken place in the town of Mount Carmel, from thunderstorms that involved hail, flooding of Arnett Branch, straight line winds that we've had across Hammond and Independence, anywhere that was any substantial damage. And then it looked at what we had for preparedness as far as our emergency generators go, any type of notification system that we had. And not only did it take our stuff that I had to sit in these meetings and compile with and talk with Mike about, he and I discussed a lot of it, we had to prioritize what we needed and what could potentially happen. Alright, so then what TEMA done was TEMA took all this information and they put it together all across the county. Alright, so by adopting this plan, what that does, it does a couple things for us. One thing, in the event that we do have a natural disaster and we are declared in a state of emergency, that opens us up to the FEMA coffers of money to help us mitigate the hazard, to help us rebuild, to help us do whatever we need done within their guidelines. Beforehand, what that does is this opens us up for grant opportunities. One of the priorities that we looked at was a emergency generator for City Hall. And a lot of you think, well, why do we need one here at City Hall if something happens in the evenings? I'll go ahead and tell you that we have in our fire prevention plan for the town of Mount Carmel, City Hall is my and Mike's emergency operations center. The reason we designated City Hall is because we have easy access to the main highway to where we can get resources to us. We have plenty of open space below and above in case we have to bring in large groups of people to help us mitigate the problem. So, but for this to be able to function as a emergency operations center, we've got to have emergency power. We've got to have a backup generator. One thing that it opens us up to get through this plan is emergency generator for City Hall. Now that would be grant funded, paid for by the grant. We apply, if we apply, meet all the parameters, and receive the grant, then we have it. They'll come and install it, whatever. This plan here, there has been, some people have questioned the plan. I can show you points in the plan to where we are ranked in the county on certain disasters. I can show you our overall threshold rating, our vulnerability rating, as FEMA calls it, to any types of natural disasters that we have. It is in this plan. They rank them on a scale from 6 to 0. There's some stuff, straight line wind incidents, which we have an occurrence of happening here in Mount Carmel. We are ranked higher than most in the county. I don't know what it is about this area, but the National Weather Service has us like a hotbed for straight line winds for some reason. It's happened more than once, and I'm sure that people in here have had experienced wind and stuff during storms. So, I encourage you, it's my recommendation, I can't speak for Mike, but it's my recommendation that you accept this plan by resolution. And then what that does, I'll be able to notify Tennessee Emergency Management Agency that the town of Mount Carmel has accepted, and we are in compliance with our hazard mitigation plan. And then they'll put us in the group to where if I apply for a grant, or if Mike applies for a grant, or if I apply with Mike for a grant, then that opens us up, and it's one of those things where if your name's not on the list, you get looked at last, one of those type things. So it puts us up on the list where we can get looked at. Does that help me?
I'll make a motion to accept it.
There's muddy water.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Resolution passes.
Okay. C is discussion and consideration ordinance 22508, an ordinance to amend the code of ordinances of changing the title 14.
I'm
as
sorry.
an-
Mayor,
Your one's hit, man.
The rezoning is.
we're on the,
Sorry. Discussion and consideration ordinance 22507, the ordinance of rezone, certain property, identified as partial of the two, on Hawkins County map, map, 22P, from mixed use one district to mixed two district, within the corporate limits of Mount Carmel City of Tennessee. Do I hear any discussion?
What's the zoning board got to say on it? Do they recommend this?
Mr. Kushner, could you speak to this?
Zoning board unanimously recommended it.
Motion.
Do I
We
hear
got
a
a motion,
motion?
we got a motion.
You made the motion, okay. Do I have a second?
I second.
Teresa seconded. Motion.
Any other discussion?
I just got one question. Vance, how many apartments have they put in up there?
6.
Six? Okay.
There's already 3, and they'll be changing the downstairs to apartment use also.
Seems like some good money coming in to me.
And the gentleman and the lady sitting in the back are the ones that owns it now.
Yeah, my name is Rachel Enfield, my husband JR.
So thank you for coming tonight. Okay.
Any further discussion? Alderman Gibson?
Yes.
Alderman Gillum?
Yes.
Alderman Patrick?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Mock?
Yes.
Mayor Stillwell?
Yes.
Passes on first reading.
Okay, C is discussion consideration of ordinance 22505, an ordinance to amend the code of the ordinance to change Title 14 as needed to update various zoning rules as shown below.
You say 505, I got 508.
I said 508.
I'm just checking.
Okay, do I have any discussion?
I didn't understand number 1, section number 1. I'm on the right page. I'm sorry. I'm on the wrong page. Yeah, I'm on the wrong page. Section 1, section 14603, on parcels in the residential districts, the accessory building must be on the same lot as the principal building and may not be built before the principal unless the principal and accessory are being permitted at the same time. What is the reasoning behind that, Dan?
That's present procedure is what we do.
I've lost my hearing.
That's the way we do business, and we're just trying to make it, that it's not just an SOP, but part of the ordinance. The reasoning is, you have a house and you bought the vacant lot next door and you put a garage on it, and you end up selling the garage lot separate from the house, and they want to use it commercially. And it has happened in town.
I know one.
You have to do the house before you do the garage.
What are you trying to say that they can't, if they, I'll take my lot for instance. If I decide I want to put a garage over there or whatever,
Just combine the lots.
is that a law that I have to do that?
Not right now, but if you pass this, it will be.
So I don't guess I'm gonna go past that, because I'm gonna keep that lot empty. And maybe put a garage in it.
I was a little bit confused because, you would know the type of events that I would be talking about, that it's built several homes, and they live in Churchill now. And they built the garage first to live in before they built their home. I don't know the reasoning behind that, but the way this was written, it confused me. It would be like it was
They
denied.
get permits for both, and
Yeah.
and frequently they'll put in the storage building to secure the tools and the valuables while the house is being built.
But if they got the permit at the same time, they could do what you were saying.
Yeah.
If they, as long as they permit the house and the garage, it would be fine.
We don't want the storage building sitting there with no house.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't interfere?
No.
Okay.
Do we need a motion?
But what Jim's saying would be, so what you couldn't do is buy 2 lots that touch each other, right? And put up a garage on one, and then later put a house on the other, correct, Vince?
That's correct.
They have to be on the same, they have to be on the same line.
But if-
Or if you did it that way, you would just combine, have the lots combined, and then you'd be fine.
Let me get this clear. You're telling me, you know where I live, you know where I got that lot. You're telling me I would have to annex the house lot and the empty lot before I could put a building over there.
You'd have to combine them, yes, sir.
But you could put a building there.
If you wanted to put a
like
house over
garage,
there and a
if it's
building also,
connected
that would be
to,
fine.
Farmland, right?
You can put a garage with an apartment in there, call it a house.
Yes.
Like we're building a little room upstairs, and I guess that would be a workaround, but now we're just trying to build homes.
I'm gonna vote motion to finance.
How difficult, if you went into a new subdivision and you wanted 2 lots for privacy mostly, to give you some space in between homes, because they build them so close to each other now, if they go to record this and they want to make it 1 lot instead of 2 separate lots, how difficult is that gonna be for them?
A person recently, had a lot up at the end of Seven Oaks and went down, the assessor took care of it for him. I don't know what he did. He called me and told me that he'd got it taken care of.
Couldn't you be grandfather falls in on this?
Pardon me?
Couldn't be grandfather falls in on this, which wouldn't apply to you? It's already that way, there's nothing on it. So if you make it zoning law, I couldn't build on it, but I should be grandfather falls in because I've been there for a while.
That's an attorney question.
I don't know if that's how the grandfathering works. Because it wouldn't just be on people that purchase new property. Because the zoning would apply to everyone.
Once the property, if the property is currently in that status, you have a house, you have a garage, 2 separate lots.
Well, you're not going to tear it down.
Right.
Yeah, no.
So the.
That's how the grandfather works.
Right.
You wouldn't have to then combine lots if there's already a house and a garage separate with separate lots. But you
can't,
could.
the way it is, you can't even put a tool shed on it.
Yeah, as I say, but that's what it wouldn't grandfather in property owners. They would still be subject to the zoning
Right.
if they were to build something. Yeah.
Well, that's, I know that I have a lot beside my house, and, if I build a, garage on that, I have to sell it separate, right? But I can build a garage on my house and hook it to that lot, and I'll be okay.
Correct.
Okay, that's what I was saying. Because that just came up here last year with me.
Well, this is the first reading on this. I mean, we could pass first reading with the instruction to look at this provision and then determine on second reading if we don't want to.
I think that's a good idea.
And then we can discuss it at a workshop and work through the possibilities a little more, maybe.
And my intent was to put a 40-foot building on that extra line. Just to get some of the stuff out of my garage.
Yeah.
But with this, I wouldn't be able to do that.
Pass it with this section 1 omitted.
Well, or just pass it with the intent to workshop this section and see, you know, if it needs to be changed or taken out before the next reading.
Second reading will have to be in March.
I would take I would get a motion and a vote for first reading.
I'll make that motion.
So we got a motion.
Do I have a second?
I will.
Any further discussion? Alderman Gibson?
Yes.
Alderman Gill?
No?
Alderman Patrick?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Moss?
I wanna be sure I understand, we're tabling.
No, we're
No.
motioning to pass it on first reading,
Oh,
and then we'll discuss it.
no.
And Vice Mayor Stillwell, or excuse me, Mayor Stillwell.
Yes.
Passes first reading.
Okay. And D, discussion and consideration of Hammond Avenue traffic control measures. Do I have any discussion?
I'd like to make a motion to forward that to the next meeting, because I got some paperwork down at home, I didn't bring it with me.
This one?
Yeah, on the traffic
I'll
count.
second that.
Okay. So table that one.
Yeah.
Or postpone, we'll say postpone.
Postpone.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Mount Carmel and Sigornsville, got a letter from, the mayor of Church Hill. And, he is, well, let me just read this to you. And because this took place with their meeting on this past Tuesday night. So, and, we were not aware of it whatsoever, Mayor of, Sigornsville or myself, or a lot of the board members, on, the rec committee, the three recs, three city rec. And so, I got this, and it was written, sent to me, January the 20th, 22, Honorable Pat Stillwell, City of Mount Carmel, of course, I had the address. Dear Mayor Stillwell, at the January the 18th, 2022 Churchill Board of Aldermen meeting, and the board reviewed the interlocal recreation agreement. After discussion, the board voted to withdraw from the interlocal recreation agreement. With receipt of this letter, a 1-year notice is given. So, we weren't discussed, it has not been discussed between the mayor of Sigornsville or myself, either one, and it was just thrown on us on Wednesday morning when we were supposed to have the, Wednesday evening meeting. So I just wanted to tell you that Dennis Steele, mayor of Churchill, sent this out, and it is letting us know that in 1 year, we will be out of the rec meeting, the rec room. So, and we're going to work on that. Our kids will not be out of plan ball. We will work with Sigornsville, and we will make sure our children still get to play ball. And not only that, we feed in, this rec league feeds in to Churchill Middle School. Churchill Middle School feeds into the high school for volunteer, and then volunteer feeds into colleges. So this is their groundwork on this, rec. So we will continue somehow to have our recreation. And, like I said, the board, we had, the meeting on this past Wednesday night, last Wednesday night, and, it was just none of us there knew anything about this meeting and this come up. So, we want you all, when people ask you, we are going to have some fun club for our children here in Mount Carmel and Sigornsville to continue over the years like we have before. My children played rec, my grandchildren played rec, and now I have children that are in my neighborhood playing rec. Any discussion with this, you all?
What are we gonna do with the equipment that y'all bought together? How y'all?
The equipment, will have to be divided up.
Yeah, that's to be in a certain.
So we've got some things to work out, and, some of the board members, if I understand, did not even know, his VMA, members, they did not even know that this was going to take place. It just come up all of a sudden. And I wanna thank, Keith Gibson for voting no on this. He voted no on this, so remember him when you go vote.
I just think that one thing that's important to point out is that we've got a year before this disbands. You know, we've got plenty of time to hopefully get Churchill to come back to the table to negotiate this, that we don't just let a rec league that has been, I think Churchill and Mount Carmel worked partnered together when I was playing rec league. So, I mean, I hope it's something that we can work out the differences, figure out what's going on with it, and get them to come back to the table and negotiate that we might continue to not only have a rec league, but hopefully make some improvements to it to get some more participation. You know, because I think it'll be hard for Mount Carmel or Worcester ones to sustain a rec league with just the population. And I think that working together with the three cities is the best option that we have. And you know, I hope that we can at least find some type of common ground to get them to come back to the table to figure out what the problem is with this, that we might continue it on.
But you said how kids are still with?
Yes.
You can say how much it will cost you for some of this.
I don't think they've worked out that far. They're just letting us know that they're pulling out within the next year. I would say there's still a lot more to be sorted out and worked out with the rec league, as far as, you know, what our portion of the buyout looks like essentially. But I think before we start looking at, it was limit doom that it's straight to being done, like, we've still got a year to try to work something out with Churchill.
I'll have to say this much. Wednesday night meeting, myself as a mayor, I excused myself as board member. And Dennis Steele was not there. He didn't come to that meeting, but I myself and the mayor of Savonesville, Mayor Merle, we came, and that, we have, sent letters several times to, Mayor Deal, and, we have not had him come yet. So that's my comments. And thank you all for coming again, and I wanna thank again, from the bottom of my heart, for all of the workers during the snow, the police, the fire, they all were right there. So we have got wonderful workers. Okay, Darby, you have anything?
Fair enough.
John?
I've got just a couple of things that I'll touch on. One thing in the packet this month, Chief Byington passed out some information from the fire department. And I think there was a lot of good information there that I just kind of want to point out because we do have some good things happening in our fire department. One of the things that I kind of flagged here was the biggest achievement we had in 2021 was the implementation of the first responder program and cardiac arrest program, partnering with Hawkins County EMS. Both these programs will put a state licensed emergency medicine professional on scene, administering care to a patient within 5 minutes of the initial 911 call. So, and then it goes on to report that not only have we met that goal, we've exceeded it operating at 4 minutes on scene. And I mean, that's a pretty, just want to point that out because that's a pretty significant thing to think that from 4 minutes from the time when you're calling 911 about a medical emergency, you've got somebody on scene. That's a good job for that, Jason. Other thing you pointed out was having an average of at least 10 personnel on structure fire. So that's working average is 12. Had over 200 kids that stopped by for the fire station for the trick or treat. And then just, I think it's important with that, adopting that hazard mitigation plan, the FEMA and TEMA, you know, if there was to be something happen, that we've got access to that funding. Second thing I just want to speak to was, I think we need to get a parks meeting scheduled for this upcoming month. I'm going to request Chairman Trainer does that for the Parks Committee to get that going so we can continue working on the improvements that we had purchased last year and hopefully try to get the disc golf actually installed.
It's already in.
Right, the equipment's in,
Yeah,
but it's
the equipment's
installed.
in, yes. Thank you. Teresa? Jim?
No, I'm gonna take a lunch.
Mike?
Yes, would like to make everyone aware, earlier this week, received word, about a little bit over a year ago, I believe, the city applied for a CDBG grant. We were awarded that, state awarded, if I remember correctly, just over $500,000, for water infrastructure improvements and expansion. That grant will be pretty much executed. It'll be administered by the development district. They carry a heavy load on that, and the city will operate as a pass-through for that with the water company. But that should provide some much-needed expansion and infrastructure upgrades for our water system. We believe, hopefully, that it should also help our ISO rating. I don't know if our ISO rating will change, but one of the major factors when it comes to factoring ISO is water flow. So this is a good thing for us, good thing for the community. Additionally, we want to echo some other sentiments. Our public works guys did do a great job with snow removal and treating the roads. I certainly appreciate their acknowledgement, those that have, and want to echo that. Lastly, as some of you all know, everybody in City Hall wound up with COVID. I appreciate everybody that's reached out and expressed
all you guys have covered?
All right. So I actually have a couple things to talk about. First, I passed out to everyone a document, and it's titled Report, Conclusions, and Findings of Fact Regarding Brenda Parker's Ethics and Discrimination Complaint, that's in quotes, against City Manager Mike Outright. So the first of our many ethics investigations has now been returned from Mr. Lauterbach, who's conducting the investigations. And I wanted to highlight some parts of this so that everybody knows, kind of how it unfolded and what his findings and his conclusions were. To begin, he did applaud the town. Well, I was pleased with how comprehensive this was. It was very thorough. He's got about a 12-page report that he's prepared. He's included a number of exhibits. But he begins by kind of talking about who the players are, and then he says that he was pleased with that the town made every effort to provide him the information he needed and facilitate a fair and unbiased review of the ethics complaint filed by Ms. Parker. I think that's good. When you do something like this, you want everybody to participate, fully. He goes on to state, I reviewed the Code of Ethics adopted by the town originally through Ordinance number 320 in its current version, Chapter 7, Sections 1701 to 1711, which he attached as Exhibit A. I provided a copy to Ms. Parker during my interview with her. I've attached photographs I was provided by Ms. Emily Wood. It was explained to me that these photographs were taken before the lighted issue was removed in September of 2020. The exhibits that played a role in my investigation are attached and labeled as follows. So his exhibits were Exhibit A, Town of Mount Carmel Ethics Code, Chapter 7. Exhibit B, cumulative photos of streetlight before it was removed. Exhibit C, cumulative, 3 photos of streetlight after reinstallation. Exhibit D, Appalachian Electric Power Document dated August 6, 2020. Exhibit E, call information from Brenda Parker to AEP. Exhibit F, Ms. Parker's complaint, and Exhibit G is a follow-up letter from Ms. Parker. He notes that the people he interviewed as a part of his investigation were Brenda Parker, Ted Parker, I believe it's her son, Mike Outright, Emily Wood, Chrissy Bradshaw, Tammy Connor, Jesse Sally, I hope I pronounced that correctly, Janice Dean, and Alderman Monk. I thought there's a paragraph on the next page that I thought was important before I get into the findings. He says, before moving into my findings, I want to be clear. I investigated this complaint using the town's ethics code as the standard and guide. Several witnesses felt that their definition of what constituted an ethics violation should control my investigation. I do not begrudge them for feeling this way, but the town has a standard it has adopted, and it was that standard which controlled this investigation. Simply put, the town has a code of ethics, and my investigation dealt solely with whether Mr. Outright violated that code of ethics through his decisions and actions related to the streetlight in front of Ms. Parker and Ms. Wood's residences. And I think that that's important because, we have a version of the model state ethics code, and that's, a violation of that would result in a finding. Now, there's a whole lot of facts that he's included in here, and from his various interviews, and I encourage you all to read them. But I'm going to move to page 8. It's under Roman numeral 2, and it's titled Ms. Parker's Complaint and Specific Claim of Ethics Violations by Mike Outright. And I'm going to read to you, so I hope it doesn't get boring. Ms. Parker,
What did you say, Roman number 2?
yeah, 2, on page 8, yeah. Ms. Parker advised me she had not reviewed the town's ethics code before she filed her complaint on September 20, 2021. She had still not reviewed it when we spoke. I gave her the opportunity to review it and call or write me with any information she had that revealed a violation of the town's ethics code by Mr. Outright. She sent me a follow-up letter, which was attached as Exhibit G. It did not reference any ethics code she believed Mr. Outright violated. One page of her letter was dated January 3rd, 2022, and one January 5th, 2022. At one point, she noted her belief that Mr. Outright's actions violated all of the town's ethics codes, but she failed to state how. Ms. Parker advised she often saw bears before the light was removed. She advised she only saw bears once in the time the light was removed. She advised before the light was removed, she had contacted the TWRA for assistance with bear removal. She could not explain how having a light kept bears away. Based on her statements to me, the street light apparently did not keep bears from her property. Further, during the month the light was out, Ms. Parker did notice the light was did notice the light was not working. However, neither Ms. Parker nor her son called AEP or the town to fix or ask any questions about the light. This implies they were not overly concerned about the light not working. Ms. Parker's complaint referenced her husband being terminally ill in October of 2020 and his need for hospice care at their home. Both of these assertions are true. She advised me she became aware of her husband's illness, her husband's illness was terminal, and the need for hospice services on October 19, 2020. The light was removed almost 4 weeks before that. Therefore, Mr. Housewright could not have known of the illness of Mr. Parker, much less its terminal nature, when he asked AEP to remove the light. The lighted issue was removed almost a month before the need for hospice arose. Once the need for hospice arose, the lighted issue remained off for approximately 6 days. During those 6 days, Ms. Parker still did not contact anyone with the town or AEP to ask questions about why the light was not in place. Ms. Parker began asking about the light only after the neighbor informed her that the light had been removed at Ms. Wood's request. Ms. Parker did not have an explanation as to why she did not call AEP or the town to ask about the condition of the light before she became aware that it had been removed at the request of Ms. Wood. Once she heard Ms. Wood's involvement, she promptly picked up the phone and called the town. Ms. Parker's first call, upon finding out this information from Ms. Bradshaw, was to Mr. Housewright. Ms. Wood received the call and connected Ms. Parker to Mr. Housewright. Mr. Housewright explained to me that Ms. Parker was less than cordial and somewhat vulgar during that phone call. He explained she wanted an explanation why the light had been removed. He informed her of the reasons why, giving her the same reasons set out in the above in this report. As Ms. Parker continued to express her feelings to him in an unflattering manner, he had advised her that the light would no longer be paid for by the town and ended the conversation. After the light was put back up by AEP that same week, Ms. Parker did not contact the town or Mr. Housewright. Ms. Parker waited almost a year after the light issue arose before filing her ethics complaint, which she attached as Exhibit F. I asked the logical question of why she waited so long. She advised me she had been ill with high blood pressure and was not able to. I have no reason to specifically doubt this. However, on August 3rd, 2021, she felt strong enough to walk across the street and engage Ms. Bradshaw in a conversation about something to do with delivery trucks using and allegedly damaging Ms. Parker's driveway. According to both Ms. Bradshaw and Ms. Parker, this conversation quickly became heated, and Ms. Bradshaw and Ms. Parker raised their voices at one another. Apparently, Ms. Parker walked either onto or next to the driveway of Ms. Bradshaw with her Ms. Bradshaw, period. According to Ms. Bradshaw, Ms. Parker was verbally accosting her and took a swing at her dog with her newspaper. Ms. Parker admitted she took a swing at the dog. Both Ms. Parker and Ms. Bradshaw reported one another to law enforcement, who came to the scene. It was shortly after this incident when Ms. Parker began contemplating filing an ethics complaint against my counsel. Ms. Parker received assistance from Ms. Janice Dean as it related to drafting and submitting her complaint. Ms. Parker did acknowledge to me that she reviewed the ethics complaint and approved of it before it was faxed to the town. Ms. Dean advised me that she asked board member Teresa Mock to fax the ethics complaint to the town. It is Ms. Parker's understanding that that is what occurred. I spoke with both Ms. Dean and Ms. Mock. Ms. Dean advised that she asked Ms. Mock to assist because she had concerns about what would happen to the complaint if she simply took it down and hand-delivered it to the employees of the town. Ms. Mock's involvement was minimal, and it was solely to make sure that the complaint made it to the town. I found nothing improper about this action by Ms. Mock, as in part, her obligation as a town board member are to make sure that the voices of the town citizens are heard. Ms. Parker advised she was not asked or encouraged by Ms. Mock to file a complaint. So that's his findings of fact. That's what he deduced from interviewing everyone involved. Now then, Roman numeral 3 is findings. As noted earlier, I limited my investigation solely to the ethics complaint filed by Ms. Parker against Mr. Housewright. My interviews did not reveal any type of discrimination by Mr. Housewright against Ms. Parker. The records related to this particular matter are minimal. Therefore, I relied heavily on the statements of unbiased witnesses. I found my interview of AEP employee Jessie Sally, Chrissy Bradshaw, neighbor to both Ms. Parker and Ms. Wood, and former employee Tammy Connor to be particularly helpful in this regard. The Town of Mount Carmel's Code of Ethics makes it quite clear that there are certain actions that, if committed by officials and employees, are violative of the Ethics Code. These actions would include the acceptance of gratuities by an official or employee, acceptance of outside employment by a full-time employee without written authorization, the forbidden use of municipal time and facilities for private gain or advantage to oneself, and the use of confidential information of a citizen. I found no violations of these sections by Mr. Housewright. I paid particular attention to sections 1704 and 1708. Section 1704 requires an official or employee to recuse himself from the exercise of discretion when making a decision related to any matter where that official or employee may have a personal interest in the matter that affects or would lead a reasonable person to infer that it affects the exercise of discretion in making that specific decision. The question here would be, did Mike Housewright have a personal interest in this matter that would have required him to disclose that personal interest on a form to be provided and filed with the town recorder? No such form was filed in this circumstance. However, I find that it was not necessary. Mr. Housewright had no personal interest in the matter beyond his concerns for the town, which are set out above. For example, if this particular light had been affecting a property or family member of Mr. Housewright, then I would think this ordinance would apply. However, those circumstances do not exist, and I find that he did not violate Section 1-704. Section 1-708, subsection 1, is not relevant to this matter as it deals with private purchases of town officials or employees, which did not occur in this matter. Section 1-708, subsection 2, holds for the proposition that an official or employee may not use his position to secure any privilege for himself or others that is not authorized by the charter, general law, ordinance, or policy of the town. In this circumstance, Mr. Housewright made the decision through his position as town manager to remove a street light. There is nothing in the charter, general law, ordinance, or policy of the town that would prohibit him from doing so. In other words, he was authorized to make his decision and nothing in the law or ethics code prohibited it. As noted by Tammy Connor in her conversations with me, she, as the town recorder, was not authorized to make the decision to remove the light. The decision whether to remove the light was a decision for the town manager. In that, Mr. Housewright was authorized to make that decision, and in that he did not secure a privilege for himself or others that would not otherwise be authorized. Mike Housewright did not violate Section 1-708, subsection 2. Though not couched in these terms specifically by Ms. Parker in her complaint, the elephant in the room is whether Ms. Wood, as an employee of the town, received special treatment because of her position, and, if so, whether that treatment by Mike Housewright Mr. Housewright violated the town's ethics code. Ms. Wood was working with AEP to seek a solution for her issues with the light before she became employed. After she became employed, there is no evidence she sought or was given treatment different from any other citizen. It would be easy to say the light was removed only because she was a town employee, but no one provided me with evidence of this. To the contrary, I did not find that the statements, facts, and documents I reviewed support a violation of any of the town's ethics codes by Mike Housewright. I found Mr. Housewright's justifications for his actions, as the same are set out above in my report, to have been reasonable, lawful, legitimate, and within the confines of his role and responsibility as town manager. And he concludes, I applaud the board, mayor, and aldermen of the town of Mount Carmel for allowing this investigation to commence and run its course in compliance with Chapter 7, Section 1-710 of its subparts without interference. I trust that after reviewing this report, the board will have a better understanding of the circumstances and facts surrounding the matter at issue. I again want to thank you for reaching out to me to assist. Should you need any additional information, then please do not hesitate to ask. And I think it's important also, I'm going to skip back to page 7. I was about to do that. Where he actually goes through the decision-making process that the city manager exercised. And these were his findings in that regard. I didn't read them at the outset, but I think that it's important to highlight them. So Mr. Lauderback notes, in making his decision, Mr. Housewright advised he considered two primary factors. Number one, was the light serving more of a public or private function? And number two, was the number of citizens adversely affected by the light greater than the number served by it? Mr. Housewright advised that in his opinion, because the street affected by the light was not a major thoroughfare and because street illumination was not a factor to the nighttime travel of citizens, there was not a significant public function that warranted the town to be paying for the street light. Mr. Housewright specifically advised that the electricity used and cost incurred to operate the street light by the town should be used to provide a public, not private function. Before asking the AEP to remove the light, Mr. Housewright determined that the light did not serve a public function and negatively affected the majority of the citizens living in the area. So we've now concluded the investigation of Ms. Parker's ethics complaint against the city manager. I do really encourage everybody to read it. I think that he does a very good job laying out the timeline of events that precipitated the light being moved and discussing, everyone's interactions with AEP throughout that time. There's a whole lot of discussion with AEP, and then also kind of some of the interpersonal relations that surround the matter. So I thought that was, I was actually very pleased with the way that he constructed this report. It was easy to understand, and I wanted to provide the board and the public with that. So if anybody has any questions, I suppose he's more than willing to talk to you about them, or I can answer them if you need to.
How much did this report cost you?
It's hard to, it is actually kind of hard to, we'd have to look at the bills and itemize them, because in the bills that we've received, there's work for this one and some of the others. So it's hard to say exactly what all part figures.
At present, I believe we've spent about $16,000 on ethics compliance.
I'm just one right here.
Well, no, 16 total.
Oh, okay.
But I would say,
Can we get that itemized when it's all said and done for
yeah,
all
we can split them all up.
Go ahead and get those itemized.
Yeah, we can split them all up by the end.
And I've got one question for you, Mr. Peavy. On this very first page, at the top of the report, it says confidential and privileged, but now that that's been read in the open meeting, that's.
Well, it's a public
information.
document anyway, and he, one of the reasons he sent it that, under that regard is because he, is still actively conducting investigations. So he sent it to me a couple days ago and was asking that I hold it, until, a later time so that I could then provide it to everybody. And I told him in my email back to him that I was planning to discuss the findings with the board, and I was gonna distribute it to y'all as well. So a copy's been sent to Ms. Bradshaw as well, or Ms. Parker as well, via the mail, so.
I got one question.
Yes.
I don't think you can answer. I don't know where he can or not. How long had that not been up there facing the street?
We can tell you, actually.
Then the city picked up the cost?
Well, and all that is in here.
If it's in there, I'll find it. Because I hear about 25 years.
The original pole was moved in approximately 1988 to its current location. And the town, and so according to Ms. Parker, the town has maintained the pole since then. Yeah.
And the way I understand it, every pole in town, if it's facing the street, is paid for by the town.
Potentially, I don't know the answer to that, but.
You know that, Street?
No, I don't know that.
Well, I had to pay for mine because it was, facing my house. Evelyn and Jim Dean's was facing their house in our subdivision, and it is, they pay for that lot too.
So the only one can answer that question is AEP then.
Probably, yeah.
Call them.
They would know. They would definitely know.
So if that's true, it's been out there that long,
Mhm.
then they changed the light. Wouldn't it be more smart and common sense wise to go ahead and put the daggone light back up the way it was, the status quo, and take this stuff and get rid of it? There was no need for it anyway.
Alderman, number one, you voted in favor of this investigation.
I did.
This investigation and the expenses associated with it are the direct result of your action. Number two, if you will read the report, you will see exactly what my justification is. Number three, if you'd like to discuss my justification, you can call me at any time.
Matter of fact, I'll stop in tomorrow and talk to you. I got a couple things I need to talk to you about.
Okay. Any other questions about the ethics investigation?
So, in kind of in summary, we spent a whole lot of money to find out that there was nothing wrong.
Yes.
Nothing was great.
Okay, so
There's several more coming up.
now I got another thing to talk about. I'm gonna hand y'all some documents so that you have them.
While you're doing that, did he give us an update on when to expect the other two back?
We don't know yet. And I wouldn't know anyway, because I'm not the point person on.
Right.
This came quicker than I thought it would.
I'm not the point person on any of the investigations filed by Mr. Greco. But I am on this section, but I don't think, we don't have that. So. Three or 4 ethics complaints when I arrived at the office that day, or shortly thereafter. I received this document from Ms. Janice Dean where she alleges that Alderman Fleischauer had cyberbullied her, which she states was crime. And then she ends that document with this quote. Mr. Peavy, you stated to the BMA that her being on a pornographic website does not violate Mount Carmel's code of ethics, and that does not violate the ethics was in quotes. What about the disgusting, nasty talk she put in the Facebook messages she has sent to me and other people that she is elected to serve? She stated that her films are in her past. These filthy letters to Mount Carmel citizens are in the present. I think you should show the BMA and the citizens of the town a copy of the town's, in quotes, code of ethics. And then she left her name. So, I interpreted this to be an ethics complaint because she specifically questioned my understanding of the code of ethics while alleging that one of the board members had done something improper. The board voted on it. They voted not to investigate it, and I don't think any of us have really thought about it since then. But Ms. Dean has. So November 15th, I received an email from her where she stated, Mr. Peavy, I did not make an ethics complaint against Mindy Fleischauer when I sent you a message telling you she lied when she said I had harassed her. As I said, I never said anything to her about her, and I'm going to redact a bit, but lifestyle. Only the email message I answered to her after she sent me an email. I expect you to make it clear to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen and the public that I did not file an ethics complaint and you had no reason to have them vote on my comments made to you. I forgot to do that at the meeting, despite being told that I was expected to do it. And so on the 24th of this month, this is actually directed to the board, so I'm glad that you're receiving it. I was faxed the following. Board of Mayor and Aldermen, in all caps. I did not make an ethics complaint against Alderman Mindy Fleischauer. The caps ends there. And I sent an email to Mr. Peavy before the last BMA meeting, telling him to inform the BMA and the public that he made a mistake when he said I did. I sent him a, in quotes, statement saying Alderman Fleischauer lied to reporters when she said I harassed her about her videos. I did not. And making a statement is not filing an ethics complaint. If or when I make a complaint, you will know it as a complaint, and it will be very different from the message I sent to Mr. Peavy, exclamation point. Mr. Peavy did not inform the BMA of his mistake at the last board meeting as I asked him to do. I am telling Mr. Peavy, in all caps, again, correct the mistake of telling the board I filed an ethics complaint on Alderman Fleischauer. Please completely remove that from the records. So, I'm going to let you all know, I interpreted that to be an ethics complaint. The board voted on it, no action was taken. And I will take exception with the fact that Ms. Dean says she asked me to inform you of that, because she's actually not asked me to do that yet. She has instructed me or demanded that I do so. Had she politely asked me, I would not take exception with that, but unfortunately I did. So I've now informed you that she did not file an ethics complaint. There's no way to remove it from the record. She asked that we do that. There is no record, so to speak. I mean, it was discussed in a public meeting, so it's just public. But you now know that she did not file an ethics complaint, and that matter should be concluded. And that's all that I've got. Thank you.
Okay, did I hear a motion to end this meeting?